I was just sent this book from the author. I love reviewing books. I am a former middle school teacher, and now I have a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. So I thought this was a perfect book to look at. It's called Building Unstoppable Self-Confidence for Teens, the fail-safe formula for finding yourself, overcoming limitations, and creating your best life from the inside out. So I'm going to take a look at this book and give you some thoughts. So one thing to note is that the author, Derek T. Freeman, is not a psychologist. He's not a social worker. He's not a teacher. He's a parent like me. I like that this book, he even mentions in the beginning, it's not a workbook. It's just these little scenarios. Every kid probably relates or at least knows someone who is similar to one of the characters in this book. There's the loner, there's a kid who's bullied. It goes to all different things, including things from his own life about moving to a new school. My own children moved to a new school. It goes through self-image, which is really important, especially for my 12-year-old daughter. It goes through the cool kids, how to assert yourself, how to have confidence. So I really wanted to sit down just for a few minutes to look through this book. And I actually sat down for about 40 minutes and read this book. So really interesting things. He does give little tips like trying to limit your social media. But again, it doesn't come across as preachy. At the end, he has a section for each chapter called Create Your Life. And they're just kind of little tips to do. So you can either read through this book all at one time. This is good to read as a parent, but it's really meant for kids. And I think he's really relatable and talks very conversationally. Again, you can tell it's not written by a doctor. It's written just by a person who actually winds up, from what I've seen, being a pretty interesting guy. He was in a band. He's a songwriter. And I feel like his stories are really relatable, especially because he's talking just from personal experience. We've all been there. And if I want to tell my kids the same thing, let's face it, they're not going to listen to me. So definitely, I'm going to sit through and read this. I am actually hoping my 14-year-old will read it because he is a guitarist. And there's a whole section about finding yourself through music, which is something I'm trying to get my son to do, to form a band, to really form his identity. It's all about finding your passion, which I'm always putting on my kids. It doesn't have to be through sports. It could be through music, art, whatever drives you. And it's also, I really like that it's only, that it's under 200 pages because my kids will not read any long books.